Hey, happy Sunday. Welcome to the UpSet podcast. Tonight, we're opening up Women's History Month with the Ladies Lounge. Coming up next. Hey. Welcome back to the UpSet podcast. Thank you for tuning in this Sunday. We're so happy that you're here. And when I say we're, looks a little different today. Hey, ladies.
Hello.
Hey. Welcome to the Ladies Lounge. March is Women's History Month. And so we're happy to have all the ladies here. Thanks for joining us this evening. Now, I realize that we may need to make sure everyone's familiar with who's here. Obviously, we all represent AEC in some form or fashion. So we have Novella over here, Pastor Novella Smith. For the people who don't know, tell them where you pastor.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. I pastor at the Great Beacon Light in Annapolis, Maryland, aka the A-Town. And so we're having a great time here in the A-Town.
All right. Welcome. Amy is back. Wave, Amy. Yay. Welcome back, Amy. And we have a couple of new faces to the podcast as well. We have Shauna K. Pottinger. Say hey, Shauna K. For people who don't know what you do for AEC, go ahead and let the people know.
Yeah, so I am the risk and benefits manager for Allegheny East Conference. I help people like Natasha to keep her health benefits, and I also like churches to protect against predators and other people with malevolent intent.
All right. Yep, she keeps us safe, healthy, and wise. Thank you, Sean. Okay. And last but not least, we have Claudia Allen, Pastor Claudia Allen. Welcome to
Hello. I am so happy to be here. Thank you all for the invitation. Very great.
Right. Now, you wear several hats, but tell the people where you're pastoring currently.
So I am a volunteer lay pastor at the Emmanuel Brinklow Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Mm-hmm. Welcome. And then professionally, well, that's the profession, but aside from that, your other role.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the outreach and communications manager for Howard County Government's Office of Human Rights and Equity.
Woohoo! Yay! Awesome. Thank you. I want to say hello to the people. Hello, Miss Daphne Bolden. Hello, Mary. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hello, Mike Williams. Good evening to you. Oh, and Daphne says hello. Hey, Claudia.
Hey, hi, Daphne.
Yeah. Personal one.
Absolutely.
Marlena was supposed to be with us, Tiffany, but unfortunately she had a family emergency. So just keep her in prayer. But she's with us in spirit. She's always with us. So join us tonight. Hello. You ready for another hot topic? Well, we'll see what we can do, but
Monte Cristo.
Hey, hi, ladies. That's Grace Kelly. That's your aunt, right, Jonica?
That's my auntie.
Yeah.
Auntie. Good to see you.
Thanks for joining us here on the UpSet. So, as you guys know, we typically start off with just what's happening in life right now. What's going on in the news? What are we seeing in our timelines? What are people talking about in your circle? So, ladies, what's going on? Who wants to jump in first?
Claudia, just go ahead, Claudia. Come on.
Man, there's so much happening in the world right now. I know particularly there's been a lot of conversation about what is anti-Semitism, given what's going on in Gaza right now. Even the declaration Free Palestine can be viewed and understood as anti-Semitic. Right. And then, of course, there is also an increase in actual anti-Semitism because of individual spheres of Zionism and what's going on with the Israeli government. We also have Governor Wes Moore. And a variety of county executives are trying to push more affordable housing throughout the state of Maryland. It's becoming extremely expensive to live here in Maryland, as I'm sure you and many of our viewers know. And so whether you're trying to own a home or if you're trying to rent, just know that we've got a couple of bills that's before the legislative session right now that's trying to help push for rent stabilization and different things like that. So we've got a lot of different things going on. Generally, I think in terms of women, given it is Women's History Month, one thing that bothers me right now that's not necessarily within our state, but maybe more nationally, we've got a lot of laws coming out that are making miscarriage a crime.
Right.
Wow.
So women right now who are being arrested and jailed and imprisoned for abuse of a corpse when what they had was a miscarriage.
Which is so uncontrollable.
So
by the human, by the lady. It's very uncontrollable. And so when you even look at the fact that people are caring to make it a bill or an issue or a crime,
right,
goes to a deeper issue of the mind and control.
Well,
that people are trying to have control. Even going back to what we were just talking about with housing, there is a lady in Anne Arundel County. I was at a county meeting and they were talking about that affordable housing. This lady has been a resident of Anne Arundel County, call it 20 years. Let's at minimum.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
She has been trying to own property for a minimum of 20 years.
Wow.
How is it possible that she hasn't made it through? You know, and so if you're not in a certain tax bracket, you don't make a certain amount. And so they're trying desperately to get her into a place where she can own property and build that legacy for her family. And so some people might say it's control, you know, as to why you have to be a certain bracket. Likewise with the miscarriage, that right. So what I thought you were going to say was abortion, because we've heard people talk about abortion, you know, but
which is a problem as well.
Which is a problem as well. But if we're comparing the two, at minimum, we say abortion is elective, even though some of it is medical. Let's just take it down to elective. You can't elect a miscarriage.
Correct.
You know?
Come on.
When you look at the word control, oh boy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Taking it a little too far.
Yeah. And when you think about that, anyone who's experienced a miscarriage, you're already devastated by what physically, emotionally, and then to be insulted further that you're committing a crime. I mean, like, I don't even know where we come up with this stuff sometimes.
I think most people who do have a miscarriage, like, they actually want the baby.
Right.
Most, at least, you know, from what I've heard, you know, like, you don't want to lose your baby. And it's like pain. Yeah, like you said, it's painful to lose something that you were trying to have.
And your body still responds as if there is a baby to produce, like, depending on how far along you are, your body produces milk and other things as if there's a baby. So you get like a double slap. No kid, and my body's freaking out.
Right. And people are telling you you're committing a crime. Rodney has jokes for us tonight, ladies. He says, look, oh, not that. That's not the joke. Sorry. He says, good evening, everyone. Tally and Pat look different tonight.
Yeah. Who's Tally? Who's Pat?
Listen, you know, if I get to pick, I want to be Pat tonight. I want to be Pat. Shout out to my homie.
I would have to be Tally then. Oh, no.
I got my wig on.
Yeah, this
these guys have jokes for real.
Yes. Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah, Tasha, one thing that stood out for me this week, as a matter of fact, there are two things. The first one is actually the fact that there's closing arguments. There were closing arguments in the Fannie Willis.
Yes,
absolutely. And that was pretty interesting to me because I've been following that closely.
Yes.
I really admire Fannie Willis. I do believe that there were some things that could have been done differently. But just going through this entire process, I'm seeing so many themes coming through, and you know, it's been kind of daunting for me, because when you have somebody who sits in such a high office, for them, for people to just come and just rip into them openly like this, you know, as we talk about this whole concept of feminism and women's rights and what have you, we've come a long way, but we still have much further to go.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's definitely something that I see coming out in this trial, particularly when it comes on to that friend. What's her name? Yurti or something like that. The one that actually was that witness that she was the main person that tried to, like, she was a key witness for the defense. And I was particularly disappointed that another Black woman would have served that purpose. I was very disappointed in that, but it is what it is.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that a little later. That dynamic shows up more than we would like to admit. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should be advocates. All right, ladies. So it's time for us to just jump into dialogue. And to our listening audience, you know, we're just going to have some conversation this evening, and we're inviting you to be part of that conversation. If you have questions for us, feel free to jump in with them. We're here to just be open and have a good time with you guys this evening. And, you know, ladies, I'm feeling really comfortable. I hope the guys don't get jealous. But I'm saying this feels good.
Okay.
And happy Women's History Month to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Women's History Month to you.
Yes, let's start that way. Now, when we think about women's history, obviously, you know, yesterday in church, I attend Germantown in Philadelphia, for those who don't know. And Pastor's sermon yesterday, Pastor Johnson's sermon, was The Invisible Woman. And he was talking about how there are so many people who are responsible for the people we see up front. It could be men. There's so many women who are behind. They're the invisible one. They don't always get the recognition or the attention, but they're very much the moving force behind the people that are pushed to the front. So I wanted to start off by asking you ladies, who is a woman that has been an inspiration to you? Whether it's personally in your own life or historically looking at them or hearing their story and their background. Who is that person that is kind of behind you, like in the back of your mind, inspiring you and pushing you? Who wants to start? Thinking about that? I can start. Let me warm it up.
Go ahead.
So obviously, when I think about that question, the first person that comes to me is my mother, because obviously she's the first woman that I saw and kind of groomed me and led me. So she was the first female leader for me, nurturer for me. But as I got older and starting to look out into the world in terms of who do I want to be, and you know who that person was for me, and I'm actually conflicted a little bit by it now, which is kind of sad, but it was Oprah Winfrey. When I was a little girl, I remember coming home from school, and I think her show came on at like 4:00, and you got out of school at 3:00, and then I would go home. And so when I would come home, she would be the first person I would see on the television. And I was just so fascinated by her ability to bring so many walks of life together. I was like, man, everybody loves Oprah. I mean, when you watched her show at that time, anybody, any demographic, I was like, wow, what a powerful woman to be able to do that and have such a national impact. And, you know, there's little rumblings about Oprah and the way people feel about her right now. I'm going to stay out of that. But for me, as that little girl, she was one of those women that I look to say, wow, women can really have an impact in society. And I would say currently a woman that has impacted me is actually Michelle Obama. It's something about her. She has this, I don't really know how to describe it, but this charisma that I really respect. I feel like she has this ability with words that just, I mean, and they flow so naturally, and yet she's cool. Like, she's the type of person you feel like you could chill with and have a good time with, have a little dance off with, or whatever, you know. So those are the women that kind of stand out to me in my life that have had some impact in terms of, you know, a woman I can respect or aspire towards. All right, who's next?
So I feel like, Tasha, you and I kind of share that first one. As you know, I've told you several stories about my growing up and my admiration for my mother. She passed away back in 2007.
Oh.
Worst thing that has ever happened to me in my whole life. But my mother's story, one day I'll be able to write it, but it's just an amazing story of resilience and just walking in your God-given purpose. She encountered so much, and against the odds, she still persisted, raising 6 children as a single mother. And sometimes, as I'm here as a mother of 3, I have the full backing, the full support. As a matter of fact, my husband doubles up sometimes, and it's still challenging for me. I just cannot seem to fathom how she ever did it. But I do admire the strength, the courage that she showed. You know, one of the things that she never exhibited towards us was that self-pity. I'm sorry for myself. She always showed strength in the face of adversity. And so she definitely is my inspiration, my Shiro, as I call her.
Yeah.
And then now, when you talk about historically, I would say that Princess Diana was it for me.
Okay. All right.
I think that that lady dug deep and she understood her purpose, even though she lived a very short life. I think she achieved so much in that time. And she allowed her vulnerability and authenticity to guide her heart in terms of fulfilling her purpose. And yeah, I really, really love me some Princess Diana. Every now and again, I'll pull up her documentaries and videos and just watch them because she was just a person to admire.
Love it. Love it. All right. I heard someone else.
Yeah. So I totally respect your views on Oprah regarding 4 o'clock. It was Oprah. And she definitely set a foundation and opened some doors, irrespective of what people might think now and where she is. I'm telling you, the historical Oprah was
right. Yeah.
My mom is one of them as well. My mom came over from Jamaica, and paved the way for some siblings as well as her son at the time. She had one son at the time, and then my sister and myself. And she always just seemed to make it happen. You know what I mean? Like, being able to view her purchase homes, purchase vehicles, and it was just remarkable to watch her as a professional registered nurse manage us, make sure we were ingrained into any church activities. We were, put through education, and the example was set as to how to make it, how to accomplish certain things. The example was set. And so definitely appreciate my mother for that. And then also Pastor Billinger, Brenda Billinger.
Yes.
Is my person. I laugh because in my office at my church, there's a picture of her and I. And you know how, what is the picture? Mona Lisa with the eyes?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, her eyes follow me in that picture sometimes.
They do.
What the world is this? And I was like, Pastor B, your eyes follow me in this picture. And, I appreciate the private and the public example that Pastor B has provided me with. She's given me a front row seat in her life. And there's nothing like a mentor who will give you a front row seat so that you have all of the tools present to accomplish whatever. And so those are 2 people. I could highlight many more, but those are 2 that I'd like to highlight at this time.
All right. Love it. Love it.
Well, I'm just gonna go. So just like you 3, I I have to say my mom. I feel like we all have to say our mom at some point, my mom, she is one of the strongest people that I know for sure. Like I have seen her go through a lot and she's come out, on top, and she's definitely an inspiration for me. And like I just wanted to tell a little story. I mean, it's she bought this land like when I was younger, and I just say like she's so determined. Like she has been paying off this land since I was young, and now she's building on it, and now she's building her own house. And it's just like, wow, like these are the things that you think women shouldn't be able to do on their own. By the way, my dad passed away a while ago, so she's doing these things on her own, and you're just like, how are you able to do this? And I find it just so liberating to see her like accomplish so much things. Another person that I looked up to, and I know it's kind of fictional, but I would have to say Claire Huxtable.
Right.
on the Cosby Show.
Yes.
I just love that. I love that character. I aspire to be her when I grow up. Like she's just awesome, and she's smart, like loving. Oh, I love the character so much, and I watch the Cosby show every now and then, and I just go back and I'm like, man, like she is just awesome, you know. And I look up to her, like even today, and I think those two people, my mom and her, and there's some other people too that I do look up to. I don't want to seem like I'm scoring any brownie points, but I do also look up to Latasha. You know, she's my she's my supervisor, and I see a lot of me and her and me, and I feel like we just connect so well, and I just like that, and it kind of makes me feel good about working at Allegheny East Conference with her and under her and learning from her, and I just yeah.
You're coming back every week now, Amy.
No, that's great. And so just to co-sign Amy here, listen, Felicia Rashad is critical.
Wow.
She's right up there next to E.E. Cleveland. Right up there next to E.E. Cleveland. No, I think that, you know, people always say mentioning your mother is cliche, but I think not everyone is blessed to have mothers who are involved, mothers who are emotionally stable, mothers who care. You know, people have very different relationships with their mothers. And so it's a blessing for all of us to be able to come on here and say that my mother is my greatest inspiration. Dr. Karen Allen is a phenomenal woman, and everything that I am, I like to say I am simply a copy paste version of her. The other, this is always a hard question for me, Latasha, because you know, my mind goes to just throughout my life, all of the different women that inspired me in some way, women authors and women artists and women actors and actresses. And the one that I'm going to mention now that's coming to my mind, just for probably myself and Novella as preachers and pastors, I would have to give a shout out to Zilpha Elah. She is a 19th century African-American woman known as one of the, if not the first African-American woman to ever preach a sermon in the United States. Wow. And so I came across her sermons while studying African-American literature and just fell in love just with the language and the beautiful way that women preach. I think that there's something different about our trumpet, and there's a blessing and a power to it that I think people don't always take the time to appreciate. So I really appreciate Zilpha Elah, and I appreciate any woman who has been given the privilege to surrender to the call to pastoral ministry and preaching.
Amen. Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for sharing. I definitely wanted to share some of what our audience, Miss Daphne said, my grandmother and my mother, unsung heroes. Tiffany said, Jewel Kibble. She is always in my mind as a pastor's wife who stayed true to who she was at every level of her husband's career. Wow. Nice. She co-signed with Michelle.
Yeah.
And then
Michelle Obama, definitely. Yeah.
And then Miss Eleanor saying hello to the pastors on the panel.
Hi, Miss Eleanor.
All right. I think I caught up with most of them. Oh, and Shirley Chisholm.
Yes.
Was another one that was mentioned. And also Pastor Lisa Smith Reed.
Definitely looking forward to that documentary. I'm not sure, or a biopic.
Yeah,
I'm sure
right?
you all heard of that.
Yeah.
Shirley Chisholm, Regina King.
Yes.
Playing Shirley Chisholm. That should be coming out real soon on Netflix. I'm real excited about that.
Me too.
Do you know when it comes out?
I don't. I know it comes out in March though.
Good.
Yeah,
Soon.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let's jump into it. So we're all women here. And
I hope so.
I hope that's not a revelation. But, sometimes as women, there are things that we experience and sometimes we don't even express it to each other as women. It's one of those like crosses we feel we must bear as women. This is our lot. This is how it goes. This is life. But I think it's important for us as women to be a little bit more vocal about the things that we experience, not just for ourselves, but it also helps other women who may be experiencing the same thing to know they're not alone. So I kind of wanted to know, as a woman, what do you feel is your most challenging, the biggest challenge you have right now, specifically related to being a woman, if that makes sense to you? I mean, because everyone has challenges, but some of them can be a little bit more, germane to the fact that I'm a woman and therefore, boo, boo, boo. If that makes sense. What would you say is your biggest challenge?
It's a good one.
Ooh.
Go
ahead.
There are many, and I hope that we can delve through all of them. But I think one of the ones that comes up for me is I think that, it's like choosing. The one I'll say is I think that society oftentimes determines what femininity is. And who gets to be recognized as a woman and what it means to be a woman and how women should show up in the world. And oftentimes, if you speak a certain way, if you dress a certain way, if you carry yourself a certain way, then that is not feminine enough. That is not woman. And as someone who grew up as a tomboy, played a lot of sports, preferred, quite frankly, the company of men, I have oftentimes not always been seen as a feminine woman. And I have been told oftentimes that I exude more masculinity than femininity. And I have been on a personal journey because of that, trying to be more feminine and trying to figure out what that means and what that looks like and how can I, be more in line with what people and quite frankly the male gaze perceives as feminine. And so I think that that's something that's a very real burden when you're trying to figure out, man, I really just kind of want to be myself.
Yeah.
Really kind of just want to be in this hoodie, kind of be left alone. But I need to be a little bit more dainty. How is it that my intelligence is oftentimes viewed as not being feminine? I know too much. I read too much. I engage in conversations that are typically exclusively for men. Women should be talking about other things. So I think that that's definitely been a challenge for me.
I love that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that right there could take up the whole program.
Exactly.
And lead us until Tuesday. Strange things are said. If you have a certain profession, strange things, the things I have been asked about what is it like to be a female pastor. Fine, I'll give you that one. Fine. But then it branches off into known. Like, do you think a man would feel comfortable with you feeling like you need to lead the home? And then I say, I'm sorry, if someone was a bank manager or if someone was a doctor, would you have asked them that as a lady and told you that I was interested in leading him anywhere? I'm like, where do you get that from? So sometimes, you know, when a lady is clergy or a director of something, there's this picture in people's minds that they want to come home and direct, manage, pastor, shepherd, you know, account balance the intimate partner that they have. And I'm like, I don't know why you think that, because once a lady comes home, if there's a partner, we prefer to be honey, not sister, not
correct.
It's different.
It's honey. You know, when a man is involved in that. And again, to what Claudia is saying, whether you have an intimate partner or not, you are automatically perceived as a certain way. You are not perceived as gentle. You are not, no matter how much high heels you wear, no matter how much, come on now, how tight that girdle is squeezing. That none of that matters when you walk in intelligent, when you speak intelligent, godly, and with authority, and when you are directing with authority and firmness, whatever, whether it's pulpit or desk, or online or whatever, it's going to be perceived as the person is too strong and not gentle or sensitive enough, and just throw the whole thing away in my mind. But whatever, we have to figure it out or help people figure it out, that is the role we're given. But at the end of the day, we are honey, or we have a nickname, or auntie, you know, or friend.
Yeah. I have to say I agree with both of you ladies, because, you know, I think one of the references that's made to that particular code switching that we have to do as ladies, especially when we are challenged in the area of increasing our followership. If we're in leadership roles and you're trying to influence people to follow you, especially males, they tell you that you have to walk that tight rope. That's what they call it. It's like you can't be too feminine because they'll walk all over you. And you can't be too masculine because you'll lose the dominant male. So that's definitely a factor. But you want to know something that I am challenged with? And it's kind of interesting because it has everything to do with our physique as women. I think that we change so much as we go through life, especially as we are dealing with motherhood, the changes that the body itself goes through. I think in generally, for me, I'm challenged in that area, you know. I don't know about anybody else, but for me, I wish sometimes that I was a man and don't have to deal with some of the things that as women we have to go through every month, or, you know, menopause and all that stuff that you hear about that you're walking into. So that's definitely one area that I'm challenged in.
Keep it real. Yeah.
That's a fact.
The other thing, Tasha, that I find to be so annoying is that as women, we don't stand together. The guys will lock arms around an issue. All right. But for females, we give each other a hard time. It's almost as if we have a table and there's a certain number of seats at the table, and not all of us occupy the table. And so because all of us are trying to get to that one seat, there is a huge competition that's going on to get that space. And so you have this crab in a barrel type mentality that goes with that, where we tear each other down, you know, behave like we're one of the boys. We talk about other females around the office, so that their leadership and followership is being diminished while you do that, so that you can ascend to that seat. That to me is probably one of the worst things, because we don't stand together. We don't back each other, wrong or right.
Oh, mercy. I listen. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. And I don't know. I mean, I think you gave some good reasons why that happens. I think, you know, because it's limited, you know, people are looking for respect and they know it won't go to everybody. So maybe I can be the one. But I want us to talk about that for a little bit, because we're all Black women here. We're all women here. What do you think it is, in addition to what Sean and Kay has already shared, that makes us want to compete with each other as opposed to join and partner with one another? Is it really just that competitive nature to like, I need to be the one, or what is it?
I think society gives probably an unspoken feeling as though only one of us are allowed in the room. And so if there is this kind of imagined thought in my mind that, only novella can be in the room, then novella needs to be removed if I want to be in the room. And so it takes more work to come into the room, say, no, don't get it twisted. She's still seated.
Right.
I'm coming in the room, and I'm actually coming to take Bill's seat.
Right.
Because Bill is incompetent, and Bill doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
So I'm coming in here to take Bill's seat. No, novella, sit back down. Or maybe we're not coming to take any man's seat whatsoever, and reassuring men that women coming to the table is not a means of removing men from the table, but simply adding additional chairs so that we can have a new perspective. And that is much harder to do. It is much harder to get the majority to add chairs to the space than it is to come into the room and say, I should be in the seat that this woman is in.
Right.
You know, what can help people is when you intentionally make up your mind to celebrate. Right? For example, there are certain times of the year that are busy for women. March and May.
You're talking good, novella.
And
talking real good.
I texted Claudia. And for Claudia,
novella texts me every year, by the way. She texts me every year. Go ahead, novella.
February. Because Claudia is Miss Claudia Black Allen. So people are going to call Claudia to preach to seminar, and I texted her at the beginning of February and said, listen, happy Black History Month. God bless you as you go, because I know this is your busy season. I remember telling Pastor Bill and G something long time ago. You know, women, Black women want to be the first at something, right? They want to be the first. I said, no, I'm good. I said, Pastor, I am happy to be the second as long as I'm the second after you.
Ooh!
Okay.
Right?
I love it.
Here's why I bring up these two examples.
Great novella.
Choose to celebrate people. Choose to encourage people. And it will keep your mind out of the scary place of competition and the scary place of I should be there. No. Be the person of celebration. Be the person of hope and encouragement in another person's life. God has what he has for you. Sharpen yourself. Do whatever God asks you. Say your prayers and let God put you where you're supposed to be. But when a sister, white, Black, Asian, whatever, is somewhere, you clap, you celebrate, and you encourage them, because the shoes they have to walk in, the burdens they have to bear. Some people think, I want that job. You don't know what that person really is going through.
Right.
Celebrate them. And then God can trust you with whatever he has, but celebrate them and allow that unity. To what Shauna K was saying, where is that? Allow that unity to happen among the sisters so that nothing can come in between.
And just real quick too, like, I really love what you're saying, novella, because I think part of it too is security. We as women need to do some really important inner emotional work to be secure in what our gifts are and what our lane is.
Yes.
So I've known novella for the 10 years that I've lived in the area. Like I watched novella pick pastoral ministry long before I was even willing or able. Okay. And I saw novella 10 years ago killing it as a youth pastor without the degree and without the title, because she had the gifting and she had the spiritual anointing for it. But then she also was watching me be blackety black Allen. And at the exact same time without the title, without the positions. And so I think what makes women able to celebrate and affirm each other is when you are secure in your own gift.
Right.
And you're secure that I know who I am. So when people call me for youth days, I say no and I send them to novella. I don't have to be on every single thing. And I think that at some point, if we're going to celebrate each other, we have to do the inner work of really discovering who we actually are.
That's key. That's key. Because I do think a lot of it, as someone mentioned, is competition, is intimidation. It's not that we necessarily want to be at the table. We probably realize we may not be as qualified as that person at the table. We're intimidated by them. So the only way that we can feel comfortable with where they are is to tear them down somehow so we can feel better about where we are, as opposed to partnering with that person, letting them be your mentor. What can I gain from you instead of what can I take from you? I think that's kind of the mentality that I'm seeing a lot. And I definitely want to put this question up here from Carrie Williams. She said, how can we create more seats at the table, like what you were talking about, or make our own table so that those in control cannot divide and conquer? Because that will happen in spaces. It will be almost this unsaid thing, like you were saying, Claudia, where there can only be one of you. And it's almost like, we'll let you guys duke it out, but there can only be one. What can we do to say, no, we don't need to sit at your table. We can go create our own table and make it more inclusive for those people that deserve to be there by their own merit.
Two things come to my mind. We can band together, create strategic plans, create ideas, show how it can work. We can pilot things for free and show how it works. Wonderful, whatever the case may be. And then when people see that great things are happening with what's been started over here with this cohort, then now it becomes the big idea that someone else created. Fine, if that's what you want to say, fine, as long as the mission goes forth. That's okay, right? Yeah. But we have to band together to do it. Number two, say there is only one seat at the table. Support the person in that.
All right.
You're talking good, Novella.
You see what I'm saying? I am not the Black history person. Am I Black? Yes. Do I know some things? Yes. If I had to preach my way through it, could I do it? However, please call Claudia Black. Right? And I'm happy to give her information over. Like she said, she is happy to give. She could preach about youth. She could preach about traumatic events and healing and whatever. She could do it, right? But she's happy to say, call Smith. You see what I'm saying? So if we could get in our heads that even when there's one chair, if we could support that chair and lift that chair up and be accomplished. If ever there's an opportunity for another chair or another table or another room, then hey, the person who's in that chair knows to call you.
Absolutely.
I love what Novella said, because supporting also means that when someone is talking about Latasha, who is sitting in the chair, right? And somebody's trying to tear her down, diminish her value and what she brings to the table.
Correct.
I can add my voice to that conversation and say, you're absolutely wrong about that. She is a brilliant young lady. Find something positive to say about that person and extinguish those flames of arrow that is being and rumors that is being spread about Latasha and her competence to take on a certain role. I also believe that we should be okay with name dropping. Like you're in a room and you have a seat at the table. Yeah, I do think that this person would be excellent.
Oh, absolutely.
And you set each other up because that's what they do.
Yeah.
So literally to what everybody is saying, I totally agree. I'm gonna drop another name that I fully support. A female pastor in Potomac Conference, the great Dr. Lola Moore Johnston. Phenomenal woman of God. She created an entire movement specifically about elevating women in ministry. Her Bloom Conference and many of her other programs that she does is all about bringing women together who have a variety of specializations, like Novella was saying. So you can bring the female preacher in who specializes in mental health. You can bring the female preacher in who specializes in blackity black, and bring in the woman who specializes in youth or children, like Darnisha Thomas. And you can bring everybody in who has their specialization, and now it's a table exclusively of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not only are we at the table, but we are now ministering to our own, because Pastor Johnston literally created something that did not previously exist.
Bloom where you planted.
Correct. Bloom where you're planted. Mm-hmm. The other thing that came to my mind when you were talking, Shauna, there's a difference between allyship and sponsorship. So in the professional world, everyone wants to talk about be an ally, be an ally, be an ally. But actually in business, in order to promote and actually see whether it's women or minorities or what have you in whatever leadership C-suite position that you want them in, it's not enough for you to simply be in the room and say, you know what, I think Amy does her job really well and Amy should get a raise. It's actually not enough for you to do that. You have to fundamentally go and sponsor Amy. And this is what sponsorship means. Sponsorship means that I am putting my social or professional capital on the line for Amy's advancement.
All right.
So if I truly believe that Amy should get a promotion, or Novella should get a position, or Shauna should get a position, or Tasha should get a position, then I'm coming into the room and saying, I am unwilling to do what I do as Claudia Allen if you do not put so-and-so in this role, or if you do not pay so-and-so this amount of money. And it's at that point that they say, man, I've got so much social professional capital with Claudia. I need Claudia. I cannot lose Claudia. So I have to give Claudia what she's asking for. And a lot of times what we do with people in power, whether it's men or whomever, we go into the rooms and we use our social and professional capital for our own profits. I'm going in and I'm trying to get more money for myself. I'm going in, I'm trying to get a better position for myself. For the pastors, I'm trying to get a better placement, a better church, a better whatever. But what if we went into these conversations instead saying, I'm not putting myself on the line for me, I'm putting myself on the line for somebody else.
You know what, Claudia, this is deep. And let me tell you, there is a personal responsibility that has to come along the way for the person who's going to that chair for someone else. We have to be women that are tidy. I don't mean just tidy in appearance, tidy in your attitude, tidy in your professional comportment. Do people respect you when you walk in a room? When you walk in the room, do people kind of be like, look who reached? Let me sit.
Look who reached.
Oh, sorry. Come out. I'm sorry. Look who has walked in. Look who has arrived. I'm so sorry.
That's fantastic.
Is there tidiness about your professionalism, about your comportment? Do people trust you so that when you open your mouth and you say, God has shown this to me, or when you open your mouth and you tell someone, I believe that this is the right person, and like Claudia said, I am unwilling to do X, Y, and Z unless you do this for that person, people have to say, yes, that is a proper consideration and recommendation from you, because they know us to be tidy holistically.
That's it.
I love it.
If Claudia says this person is legit, if Novella says this person is legit, then she's legit. I literally had people say that to me, like, well, Claudia, you know what? If you're saying it, then I trust that this person is gonna kill. So I'm gonna reach out to them.
I love that. Amy, you're jumping. That's all you say.
I was just can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, because my mic was kind of anyways. I agree with what you guys are saying. I think for me, I would like to add, and when you talked about allyship, I feel like more men need to be allies to women. I feel like this I wholly believe that we should find some kind of way to work together. Um, yes, it's good to have all the women sit at the table, but I also feel like if we have men who are allies that sit at the table with us that believe in us just the same, like it could work. You know, like I don't believe that it's, you know, like one way or the other. Like there's, you know, just men over there, women over there. Women have to, you know, put up themselves. Men have to put up themselves. Like I think if we all work together as good human beings, like, you know, and it sounds, you know, like simple, but I know it's difficult, you know, like the way how things have been in history and everything, and and just where we're at. And I do feel like feminism has gotten a long way. Like it has definitely gotten us up to the point where we are having jobs and we are, you know, at the table and we are sitting down and, you know, like, you know, eating and all that stuff. I do think that there is some room for improvement, but I do feel like we've gone to a good point where we need the men to also back us up too. Like we can't have like
just us supporting
we
us.
can't have just us supporting ourselves. I mean, that's just how I look at it, and I think that,
I think I've seen some of what Claudia referenced. I think even on the subject matter, and please, ladies, don't kill me for this. I know it's going to be a huge topic to be bringing up at this point, but the women's ordination issue, I did recall that there were pastors who actually said that they were going to give up their credentials for the sake of So I do see that there's some action there, but what I think the challenge is that a lot of them are open to an intellectual conversation about it. So ideologically, they're in agreement. But when it comes, and what I've seen, I mean, even working with the church, is that they can have that intellectual conversation. And when they speak very well in advocating for, you know, equality among women and all of that. But in terms of the practical application, they don't do very well with that. So I think our men have a very long way to go when it comes on to that side of the conversation. It's one thing to say or to talk the talk, but we're looking forward to them walking the walk in the way that they treat us when we're in the room as well.
You know, I want to shout out who is retiring right in this season. Columbia Union retired president as of I think tomorrow. Just want to shout out for everybody who's listening. Pastor Dave Wagley. Now, to Amy's point, that is the guy.
Yeah.
Dave Wagley has said things that people have looked sideways because he has affirmed, stood up, did his best, has risked probably position and respect by not just saying, but showing up for women clergy to make it, to get it, to make it, to be present rather. And
President's fine too.
President's cool. Maybe that was
that was
somebody, you know, and you know, at this time, you know, his dear wife is suffering with cancer, and he has said recently, just at the conference we were at for Columbia Union, he said, you know, I love the church, I love this work, I love my wife, you know, and if he could even rephrase that, I love the work, I love the church, and I've loved the female clergy. You know, he really put his neck out there. I remember the first time maybe hearing him speak at a year-end meeting at the GC years ago. I saw this tall white guy, you know, get up. But then he started to turn red at the mic because they were talking about women's ordination. He was really upset. The way they were going negative when he said, you cannot do this to people. And I always remember him for that. So shout out to Dave Wagley. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing, Novella. I think that, you know, within the North American division, the Columbia Union really sits as a union, and Allegheny East Conference sits as a conference that is extremely supportive of women in ministry, women specifically in pastoral ministry. And so we definitely want to celebrate them for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm grateful that I did not have to do what colleagues like Danielle Pilgrim had to do, Dr. Danielle Pilgrim.
Right.
When it was her turn for ordination, they presented her with the option for commissioning. And she said, no, thank you. And I made it very clear that when it was my turn in 2020, that if I was presented with ordination or commissioning and they said, we have to give you commissioning because you're a lady, I would have said, no, thank you. Because it's not what I would have wanted to do or whatever. And I'm hoping that for Dr. Pilgrim, that somebody out here is going to snatch her and say, here is your ordination, ma'am.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a hard road that we have to walk and choose in those kind of moments. It's a hard choice. And much respect to every woman who says yes to commissioning. You have done nothing wrong.
Absolutely.
By accepting it, because it is very motivating and encouraging, and it is your right. Nothing wrong. But it is a hard road that women have to choose when they say no to it. They're hoping that it'll provide some kind of gateway for.
So, Novella, just for those who don't understand the difference between being commissioned and ordained, can you just give us?
Let's see. Your ordination is full rights and privileges by the conference, the division, the union, GC. And I do that for a particular reason. And I'll explain that individual is a clergy who can fully function as a church pastor, who can fully function at ordaining others, setting up churches, breaking down churches when they need to be disbanded, baptisms, etc., etc. So commissioning blocks one or two of those elements. And this is just because mostly because of gender, which then does not allow you to be a conference president because you have to be an ordained individual to do so. And so then it becomes very political. It becomes Claudia's area, that whole diversity and inclusion issues, right? That she loves to speak about so much, where somebody says you are blocking a lady from being a conference president.
Yep.
And that's the reason why you're doing this.
Yeah. Call that. Yeah.
No,
that's a fact.
That's what it is.
I would love to see the day when that happens, actually.
Well,
Sandy Roberts
out in
California.
Is the only lady.
Okay.
And many of her experiences at, for instance, like GC Annual Council, she is a conference president, and the GC president would not let her in the room and would not let her vote.
And that is why I shrugged when I was going down the list to say conference, union, division, GC, because everybody else, the unions, the conference, everybody else will be like, oh, this is president so-and-so. But then at the GC, they'll be like, no, because according to the whatever bylaws, you're not eligible, because we say. That's where it gets sticky. But I'm telling you, the unions and them, they really, I got to give it to the unions, the conferences and stuff, at least on our side, have really said we are doing the right thing. Y'all catch up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen.
Absolutely. I love that. Oh my gosh. It's almost 7 o'clock, ladies.
Yeah, you need 2 more episodes to finish this.
We could talk forever. I always say that. There's just so much. There's just, go ahead. Somebody was saying something?
I said, see you next week to finish.
Well, it is Women's History Month, but
man,
let me not get in trouble. Like Eleanor said, we need more time. We always need more time, right?
Absolutely.
Reclaiming our time. We're reclaiming our time.
I know, right?
Auntie Maxine.
That's right.
But I did want, before we go, in the spirit of supporting one another and uplifting one another, I did want to, and this it doesn't have to be all of us, but I wanted to give us an opportunity to offer each other some advice about something. Like, I think sometimes as women, like I said, we hold a lot, we deal with a lot internally, and we've watched our strong mothers and others just figure it out and get it done. And so sometimes we don't reach out to each other enough when we're dealing with things to see if we can. Have you been through this? What would you do in this situation? And I wanted to know if there was any way, any situation. I mean, of course, we don't, I'm respecting everyone's privacy. You don't have to put big things out there, but a situation that you like to hear other women weigh in on very quickly. So even if someone is watching, maybe there's a quick scenario we could take and give our response in terms of how we would respond in that situation. I'll give an example. Okay. All right. So how would you handle a situation where you, and this is hypothetical, by the way, you are seeking to have a conversation with a male colleague, and during the course of the conversation, the male colleague raises their voice at you and in some ways speaks to you as though you are less than or you are a child. How would you respond, or what's the best way to respond in that situation as a professional woman?
This has happened to all of us.
First of all, take some time to woosah, I think, before you give a response. I know I'm a very emotional person, so I'm just saying from what I would do, I would probably want to cry, but I would try not to. But I would be like, from a professional standpoint, I would try to talk as calmly as possible and just say, I did not appreciate what you just said and did. And when you are available to talk correctly to me, then we can come back and have a conversation. Like, I just think
you do. Is that what you would want to do? No,
that's what I would want to do. That's what I want to do. I don't know if that's what I would do. I'm not saying that. That's hypothetically, this is what I would want to do.
So yeah. Go ahead and put up Rodney's comment. Yeah. So lots of things going on in my mind. What I would advise you to do as someone who works in employment discrimination, I would first respond to the individual and say, please do not speak to me in that way. That the way you are speaking to me is unprofessional, it's disrespectful, and it is insulting. And I will not be disrespected or insulted in the workplace. Please know that after we reach some kind of a consensus, I will be making a formal complaint to human resources so that we can figure out how to make the next step. But I will not be supervised by someone who is going to disrespect and demean me in the work environment for any reason, whether it is incompetence or if it is gender or if it is race. So yeah, I would directly rebuke the treatment.
Okay.
And I would also make a formal complaint to human resources because his behavior is extremely unacceptable and unprofessional.
I love that.
It's interesting as Claudia was first of all, when Amy was talking and she said, take time, I was like, yep. I remember, that let your words be few, that came to my mind. I can't talk too quick because so slow down for a second first. And then Claudia, before she started talking about formal complaint, I looked at Shauna K's window. I got to call Shauna K and Miss Teresa Best, somebody has to hear me, But, let my words be few. Because in the moment of me being shouted at, listen to me, when people start to shout at me, I start to feel things of discomfort.
Listen.
Like discomfort.
A different spirit possesses you, sis.
Yes. It's like even when Tasha was saying the question, I looked at Claudia, both of our eyes did like, what?
Like, how dare you?
Like, what? And so to tell you the truth, I will have to let my words be few. And it would simply be, when you have adjusted your tone,
that's good.
When you can respond with more clarity, we can discuss this again. And I would end the Zoom call.
No, that's a fact.
What if it was in person?
Then I'm leaving.
I go.
If it's in person, I'm that what Novella said. That's it. I'm leaving.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting as I listen to the responses because I am not the most politically correct person. And immediately,
I'm just playing.
Honestly, I'm not. It's true. This is a Christian podcast, so I'm not going to tell you what I would say to that person off air. I'll give you the risk management response, which is quite similar to what Claudia recommended. I think that, harassment in the workplace can only be deemed as that if you put someone on notice about the fact that I'm very offended by the way that you speak to me. And so you have to provide them with that due notification in the conversation. So I think that has to be addressed up front.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find that that behavior persists, then you definitely have to escalate the matter because you do have a right to work without being shouted at. So I do believe that from a risk management perspective, that's what I would recommend. Now, I strongly discourage anyone from speaking to me in any way or raising your voice at me at work.
Just put that out there for everybody.
That's putting that out there for everyone.
That's not the button you want to push, right? I got you.
I wish there was something. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
If it was a woman who did that, though, I had a boss who shouted at other women. She was a woman, and it was not great either. And so I think either whoever it is, woman or man, it's disrespectful.
Some of the worst not called for experiences I have had, Amy, have been from women. Some of the greatest support and advancement I have received professionally has been from men. And so I have actually never experienced personally a man trying to hold me back. I have always experienced women feeling a way about me and trying to hold me back. So I agree with you. I think whatever the gender, you can be male, you can be female, you can be non-binary, you can be whatever you would like. There is nothing that I'm gonna do in this work environment that is going to constitute that kind of a response from you. So clearly you need to manage yourself before trying to come and manage me.
Look, I see that Janet agrees with me.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay. Maybe anybody else have a scenario before we start wrapping up?
Like in the workplace?
It doesn't have to be in the workplace. Just women in general. It could be,
I know, Pat. I don't have listen, no, for real, like that. I feel like I got triggered. Like everything I do at work every day. I'm like, Tasha, where is there what? I don't necessarily have a scenario, but I do have some advice that I would give to the women on this panel or the women that are watching. Yeah. And it's advice that I actually got from Pastor Novella Smith. And oftentimes we see women grinding and killing it in the game and doing what they do very, very well. And I think one of the ways that we can support one another is encouraging that woman to take care of herself.
Yeah.
And I know for me, that's something that I struggle with. I really do need people, like Novella and others to just come in and just tap me on the shoulder, be like, hey, there's a couple of weeks off in this, right? Because I will keep going. And sometimes as women, we find ourselves doing that with our families, with our professions, with our ministries, with our content creation. And so the advice I would want to give other women is what Pastor Novella shared with me, is that are you baking in a self-care regimen routine into your life so that what God has called and created you to do, you can do it sustainably?
Yeah.
It's not good enough for us as women to do what we do for a very short period of time. I would be of such greater value to the church if I can continue to do what I'm currently doing now over an extended period, versus over a 5-year period.
Right.
And I've now burnt out either emotionally, spiritually, physically. I'm sick or I am dead because of how I did this. Versus, man, we got the beauty of Claudia's ministry for 25, 30, 40 years because she baked some self-care and some rest into it. So that's some advice that I would want to share.
Excellent.
I love that.
Yeah. Tasha, just to add to what Claudia is saying too, I think that, at some point in time, we are going to be seniors and we have to live in a world where we want to see equality for women and we want to see women treated right. I think those of us who are raising sons and those of us who are raising daughters, I mean, we have a duty to pass that on to the next generation in the way that we teach them, the way that we teach them to behave, to treat with people, recognizing the humanity in others, and to live with empathy. I think those are some of the main things that we can do as women, as younger women, teaching the generation that's coming. When we become senior members of our churches and we sit in a congregation, what do we want to see? Do we want to see representation in pastoral leadership? Do we want to see representation in other areas of the church? Well, we have to take on the work of creating the future that we want to see. And I am hoping that more women will take up that mantle, of teaching and leading the next generation in that direction.
Yes, absolutely. I think we are going to end kind of sharing advice. One of the things that I wanted to, or that I kind of pulled out from our discussion, which I think needs to be amplified a little bit more, is learning how to build your self-esteem. And I think that goes hand in hand with self-care. A lot of the times as women, I think we don't know who we are. So we're trying to be all things to all people. And like you were saying earlier, fitting into everything because, we're on this rah, we're women, we can do it all. Instead of finding out what really drives us, what are our passions, what are we good at, what has God gifted us with, and leaning into those things and nurturing those things about ourselves so that when we go into any space, we're not intimidated by anyone, male or female, because we know what God has placed in us and we're confident in our abilities and we could walk into any room knowing that he's beside us. I think if we as women did more of that work, God will open up those spaces for us because we're walking in obedience to what he has placed inside of us. So that's the advice that I would leave to women. That's what I'm trying to instill in my daughters. I'm raising 2 young women. I want them to know now I don't want them to have to wait as long as I did to discover who I was as a woman and to be able to walk in my purpose. I want them to start learning that now and asking God for that now. And so that's the advice that I would give to any woman listening. Novella, Amy, any final advice you'd like to share to the women tonight?
Yeah, sure. Listen, stay tidy. Stay tidy mentally.
That's good.
Emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Stay tidy. When one area starts to drift off into its own, then the other areas will become imbalanced. If you're tidy overall, then each part of you has an opportunity to support the other part, right? Stay tidy. If you find yourself like spiritually, your tidiness is not there, increase your devotion time. Who is your accountability circle, right? In my close circle of friends, none of us should be drifting off without the other person saying, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? Any part of your life that is starting to unravel. So tidy is basically stay raveled, unravel. And so take a closer look at yourself. If you feel like your jealousy meter is going up, get tidy. If you feel like mentally you're kind of get tidy, So at all points in the journey, be tidy.
Get tidy.
Love it. I love that.
And I guess I will just end on lean on God. And that is it for me. Because I think everybody had great points, and I think you can't stress that enough. We need to stay tidy. We need a self-esteem. We need to self-care. All that is important, but you also need God. And so,
love it.
Just lean on him.
There is one question before we go, because I did kind of put it out to the audience. So I do want to address this question, particularly for for our pastors on the line here. Eleanor is saying that she knows a few young ladies who are interested in becoming pastors, but the environment of the church they belong to does not really encourage female pastors. So, what would you all say to them?
Man,
You want to hit it first?
Tasha, my brother was a missionary in Honduras for a while, and one of the things that he shared with me was an experience he had while traveling on a ferry boat across islands. I think he was going from Roatan Island to another one, and he said he became sick on the journey because of the rocking to and fro. So he held his head down in his hand, and there was an older gentleman on the boat that observed what was going on with him. And as the nausea, became palpable, the gentleman just reached out to him and said, young man, I think you're getting seasick because you are holding your head down and you're looking around you. But in order for you to feel better and to overcome this challenge, you need to focus on the horizon, because the horizon is what's consistent. The horizon is what's steady. And once you focus on that, it will keep you grounded for the rest of the trip. And my brother found that was helpful. And I just want to say to any young person that's, you feel a call to ministry, you feel like God is wanting you to be a part of this work, this great work, to co-labor with him in winning souls for the kingdom. You cannot focus on your ecosystem. You cannot focus on your environment. You have to stay fixed on the horizon, that consistent force in your life that's driving you, that will be taking you along that journey so that you can walk in your divinely ordained purpose. So whereas men may not recognize the power of the Holy Spirit on your life, and they may not qualify you based on their standards, just always remember that men, they're fallible and they will make you seasick sometimes, but keep focused on God, because he's the one that's calling you. And once he's called you to it, he will take care of you as you go through it. And just never give up on that divine purpose and calling that you have in your life.
And that's such a serious question that was asked. And many are intimidated by the environments around them. But the reality is a call to ministry is not from a conference, union, division, or anything. It's not from a person. A call to ministry is between that person and God.
Amen.
So God will be speaking and engineering all of the details. And so the environment has nothing to do with the call to ministry. So the individuals need to first make it up in their mind that they will obey the directions of God. Obey the directions of God. And then get with the Bible. It is not I, but Christ who lives within me. That scripture is not there because the terrain is easy. That scripture is there because turbulence shall be had. But when you resolve in yourself that it is not I, but Christ who lives within me, then whatever answer to obedience that happens, wherever God says you shall preach, you shall teach, you shall train, you shall talk, you are already aware that there's turbulence. But I am staying not because the seat is comfortable, not because it is easy. I am staying because it is not I, but it is Christ is within me. And I hear people say it all the time. I'm not going to work for no organization who is like that. You're not working for an organization. You're working for God. God has assigned you over here. I'm not saying go through a mental breakdown or get to that point or whatever. That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that there's a point of resilience. There's a point of staying power that we need to have when God says, stay right there. It is not I, but Christ who lives within you.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Shauna and Novella have said. And I think the only thing that I would add that I find real interesting, Sister Eleanor, is the word interested. I am not interested in pastoral ministry. I have surrendered to pastoral ministry.
Surrender.
And so if these young women are called, like Pastor Smith was just breaking down, if they are really called to pastoral ministry, God is not going to release them from the totality of their being until they surrender to that call. That has nothing to do with the church that they grew up in. In fact, the very family and church that I grew up in Berrien Springs, Michigan. I was forbidden to become a pastor. Okay. That is the programming that is in my head. So we all come with a variety of programming as being a part of this denomination. But if God literally plucks you out of the crowd, then that means you really don't have, you do have a choice. You can choose to not do what God has called you to do, but there is a kind of emptiness and unfulfillment that you will experience in every other aspect of your life until you surrender to that call. And so the environment doesn't matter. Other people's opinions don't matter. And when the going gets tough, as the elders used to say, because it will get tough.
Oh, yeah.
It will get rough. But when it gets to that point, you will be ever reminded that you did not choose this because you were interested in it. Because I like the idea of being a public speaker, or I feel like I like people and I like, no. You are not interested in pastoral ministry. You are plucked and called to pastoral ministry. That is why, we're supposed to end. That's why a lot of women pastors don't leave. I'm not going to go down the road all the way and call nobody out. But at the end of the day, the majority of women who choose to become pastors in the Seventh-day Adventist Church have been locked out of their churches. They have been barred from ordination. They have experienced all manner of inhumanity in ways that male pastors cannot even comprehend. And yet, they're unwilling to abdicate or remove themselves from what God has called them to. That, my friends, is because I have to receive this. It's so new, it's so fresh. We did not choose this. It chose us. So that is what I would say to those young girls.
Well.
Bless you.
So, Sister Eleanor, make sure they see this because that was a word just now. Thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. Oh, yeah, okay. Listen, that we need to have a young adults women's ministry weekend with these pastors as soon as possible. Okay. Great. Guys, this has been great. We've gone over, they say women talk a lot, guys. We can't be we can't even up to the stereotype, but
we intellectually expound.
Exactly. We deserve it. And I would like to say second the comments. Wow, I didn't realize so many other comments had come in that Rhonda shared. I believe that you are all beautiful, strong,
thank you, Rhonda.
Phenomenal. Any positive adjective that you could find out there, I believe it applies to all of you ladies. And I thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday to join us for the first, I feel, of many ladies' lounges to come. Thank you for allowing us to jump off Women's History Month in rare fashion. We appreciate everything that was shared. We thank our listening and viewing audience for engaging us today and being engaged in the dialogue. We really appreciate you. Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here and for your questions. Thank you for all the comments. If you're listening to this, make sure you go check it out on YouTube and Facebook because you're going to miss some of the comments. We don't always put up the comments, but I love what you guys put in the chat. It's always amazing. All right, guys. Well, once again, thank you for joining us on the UpSet podcast. Oh, wow. I can't even say my signature line because do you guys know how to finish it for me?
I do.
You do? Okay, thank you. All right. Well, we'll see you back here, same time, same place, because if it's Sunday,
It's the UpSet podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you guys once again. Everyone have an awesome week. Thanks for watching.
Amen.